Hey, good morning and happy Memorial Day 2025. I know can be a sad day for many, but today we remember and honor the servicemen and women that have gone before us, that have served our nation, and who have passed on before us. Today I want to share a story of my great-grandpa Harr, who served in World War II. First and foremost, I want to say thank you from my family to yours if you have family members or friends who have served in the military and have passed away before us. As a veteran, I know especially the service member is not the only one that serves. If they have spouse or children, they can be very greatly affected as well. So from my family to yours, our deepest thanks for your family service to our nation. And today, my great-grandpa Harr served in World War II, and as you can see from this tombstone picture, he died in 1999, which I was only 10 years old at the time. And my memories of him aren't the greatest in that I don't remember a lot, not that they were bad memories, but I don't have a lot of recollection. When I was very young, we visited for family gatherings like Thanksgiving and Christmas and things, but my memory isn't very vivid uh, remembering things like that where he was there. So I did meet him, and I was with him as a young child. We visited. We lived in a different state, but it's not like I never saw him or never knew him, but my memory just isn't that great. And the one vivid memory that I do have was shortly before he passed away in a hospital. And you'll see a picture, and it's exactly the picture that I have in my mind of him in a wheelchair. And and so growing up as a teenager, the things that was told and knew about my great grandpa was that he served in World War II, that he was a prisoner of war, and that him and my he had nightmares at night. He had night terrors, and I learned now later on in life that him and my great grandma didn't sleep together because his night terrors would be so bad that he would almost get physical with her in the middle of the night. And everything we know now about PTSD, these you can understand, a man having night terrors. But for me as a child, with these things that I knew about him, the picture that I put together was the vivid picture that I had of him in a hospital in a wheelchair was that he was in some kind of like home for, men with PTSD that couldn't live in society, that, my grandpa served in World War II and he was a prisoner of war, and he's lived in this home because of his PTSD. Well, getting recent information from my grandmother, who sent me a newspaper article which I'm going to share with you today. She told me that he was of great sound mind, that him and my great grandmother lived together. He lived with the family. He married my great grandmother, so my grandmother is his stepdaughter, and so she has shared with me that he took the family fishing, hunting. He gifted her a shotgun to go hunting, and all of these things. Even her business when she was a young woman with a family, he visited and helped her business a lot, and he also owned businesses, as we'll see in his obituary. But so this was kind of a revelation for me, and new information, and it was exciting, and I'm glad that I've learned of it. I asked my grandma after she sent me the news article, and from there I've been trying to do research. I found his obituary online, and I've tried to get his military records. Unfortunately, nowadays you'll hear of things like stolen valor. Um, you know, people faking that they're veterans or have served, and even veterans, claiming different medals and this and that. So there's no way for me to verify um, the story or what happened in my great grandfather's service to our country. I do know that here he has Purple Heart on his tombstone. He is buried in a military cemetery in North Dakota. And from what I've found online, there is a National Cemetery Administration that does verify information that goes onto a tombstone of a veteran. So Purple Heart would have been on his DD-214 or his official discharge papers or documents. And then the only other information that I have, like I said, is his obituary that we'll look at, and a news article that was written very shortly before he passed away. So even my grandmother, who is his stepdaughter, she does not count as next of kin if you're trying to request official military documents from the government. I've tried to request his documents publicly, like through the government, through their website. You can request public military records. They don't really have a timeline or a way to track your requests, so I did that months ago, and I haven't gotten anything. I don't know if I ever will. The website says once you put in your request, it could be months. You may not get anything. So that's kind of where I'm at as far as his actual military records and documents. And then his obituary and the news article that my grandma gave me, that's all the information that I have. But I wanted to share that with you today and read through it. And so the picture that I have in my mind, I have a photographic memory, and this picture here, the news article was written, it was published about a month before my great-grandpa passed away. And this picture here is what I remember as a child. And this was taken in the hospital that he was at. Now, my grandma told me that he suffered a heart attack, and he was 72 years old. So, he was getting up there in age and had heart issues, and that was, he passed away because of that. Not so he didn't suffer from he suffered from PTSD and night terrors, but he wasn't apart from his family, or he didn't have dementia. He was very of sound mind, is what my grandma told me. But again, as a young child, I put these kind of dots together, and that wasn't kind of the correct picture. I thought he was in some sort of home where he couldn't communicate with society, and I don't want to say an insane asylum or a halfway house or something, but as a young kid, those are kind of, again, the dots that I knew. That was kind of the thought that I had in my mind, but that couldn't have been further from the truth, and thank God. So real quickly, his obituary here: Lawrence Harr, my great-grandpa Harr, he was 78. Okay, so he was 78. He died in 99. So again, I was 10 years old. He was buried in North Dakota's Veterans Cemetery in Mandan, with military rights provided by the VFW. Who his parents were. So he entered the United States Army 1942, served in the European theater. He was captured by the German Army, and was a POW for several months. He was discharged in 45, so just 3 years after joining. Honorably discharged and received the Purple Heart and Good Conduct medals. I am not 100% sure what Good Conduct medals are, but the Purple Heart is a very prestigious award. So this is information, kind of as my grandma sort of alluded to as well, with recent conversations with her. Larry and his mom ran a cafe in Jamestown for several years. He owned and operated the 20 Club in Jamestown. He was a firefighter for 15 years. So, again, service to our country. I'm very thankful and grateful and honored that this man was my great-grandfather. Moved to Bismarck in 62, and he owned and operated the Frontier Lounge and a bowling alley. And then this is my great-grandmother who he married, Marie Mallard. Her and Larry were married in 1969. In 73, he moved to Mercer, and he was employed by the mines as a security guard. So more service, using his service as a security guard. And he retired there in 1990. So, let's see, born in 21 and retired at 90. So that would have been 69, 70 years. He worked until. So again, the picture that I had, he worked and retired at 70, was of clear conscience, clear mind, very aware. And then who he was survived by. So Judy Bauman, that's my grandmother, who was one of his stepdaughters when he married my great grandmother Marie. And so then this article. So again, he passed away at the end of 99. This article in December of 99. Late December 1999. This article was released just a month and a half before, November 18, 1999. And so this is an interview by a local journalist with my great grandfather, excuse me. So I wanted to read this today and share this. By Angela Schenk. And some of it's kind of cut off, so we'll kind of get through that. But this is the kind of the copy that my grandmother faxed me. Lawrence Harr still resembles the handsome young man he was at age 20 when he was drafted by the United States Army and sent to serve in World War II. A picture of Lawrence hangs in the hallway that leads to his room in Community Memorial Hospital. So that's that picture that I showed you that I have in my mind. This is the picture that they're referencing. It is there to honor him as a veteran. In it, his eyes are clear and penetrating, and his jaw is set firm and determined. He is not smiling. His lips are strong and define the reason for the picture. He is a soldier. Today, his lips are drawn somewhat taut. His left eye is not as wide as the right, and it requires a careful ear to understand his words. The war is not all he has survived. Lawrence also has survived 3 strokes. On November 18, 1942, Lawrence became active duty. He said goodbye to his mother and dad from their rural Jamestown home and then traveled by bus to Fargo, where he in process before heading to Texas and then overseas. Times were bad before I left. He said there was no rain and no crops. If you had $1 in your pocket, you were rich. Much different than today's standards. But it was home, someplace he would soon be praying to return to. Some of the guys I went on the bus with were nice and some were mean, he said. No one knew anything about where we were going. We had no idea what to expect. They never told us anything. For 27 months, Sergeant Technician Lawrence Harr fought against the Germans in what he called a battle for oil. During the first 8 months there, Lawrence was injured twice and received the Purple Heart Medal of Honor. The rest of the time was spent fighting a separate battle, the battle to survive as a prisoner of war. So 19 months. Lawrence was captured by enemy soldier and held prisoner somewhere in Italy for 19 months. Learning how to behave in order to stay alive meant doing a lot of work without ever complaining. Anyone who started trouble got it, he said. The English prisoners were troublemakers. Troublemakers were those who refused to do the work assigned to them by the German captors. There was always wood to be chopped and repairs to be made, Lawrence said. We made repairs to the buildings that we, the United States, destroyed with bombs. Lawrence, unlike the Jewish prisoners of Hitler's concentration camps, did at least receive warmer clothing for working outdoors during the winter months, but there was little relief in the summer months. It was very hot. It was very, very hot, he said, as if remembering it too well. The young German soldiers were mean, he said. The old ones weren't as bad. That's interesting. Living on sauerkraut fed twice a day and an occasional green apple, the prisoners were always hungry. But the smart ones knew not to complain. They used clubs to beat us with, Lawrence said. They hit us anywhere. It didn't matter where. Lawrence pauses and his eyes do not blink. When he begins again, his gaze is forward and his words are far away. Some Germans stood and watched us, he said. Some sat down with their German shepherd dogs and watched. After a sigh and a slow blink, he continued. Anyone who made trouble was gone. Each night, Lawrence would remember the home he left and say a prayer he still remembers. Sorry. Tears fill his eyes, but only a drop runs down his cheek as he recites it. Dear Lord, please let me live long enough to walk through the back door into my house again and let me see my mom and dad one more time. After that, you can kill me. In the fall of 1945, Lawrence and two other prisoners attempted to escape. Two were shot and only Lawrence escaped. I'm sorry, guys. It was fall in Italy and the air was crisp and chilly. The water in the river was cold by now and bare trees lined its bank. Regardless, the river was home to Lawrence for 2 days after his escape. I stayed in the water for 2 days, he said. Knowing the Germans would search for him and also knowing the dogs who used to watch him work were very familiar with his scent, the river was the only safe place to be. After 2 days, he emerged from the river and camped on its bank. I ate anything to keep alive, he said. Bugs and tree roots mostly. It was his plan to wait there until he was discovered, hopefully by one of his own. His plan worked, and one day a man in uniform found Lawrence. I don't remember his name, he said. I just remember he was a general and that he asked me who I was. So that's pretty interesting that it was a general. That probably would be unheard of in today's warfare. But that's pretty cool. Officers back then were with the troops, man. I told him I was Lawrence Harr, United States Soldier number 373244F1. So I don't know anything about these soldier numbers. I know we had dog tags kind of with our blood type and information on them, but this is the first time I've saw or heard of that. But from his number, the general was able to determine he was a Midwest soldier, I believe is what that says. It's kind of cut off. To determine he was a Midwest soldier, I believe. I'm not sure what the end of that says, but more questions were asked, and it was something before it was not long before he was on his way back home. Lawrence remembers being aboard the ship when he heard the war had ended. Did I have a sense of satisfaction when I heard the news? Damn right I did, he said. The ship docked in New York City and Lawrence phoned his parents. 27 months had passed since they last heard from their son. Although they had received word from the Army, Lawrence was reported missing in action 8 months after he left them in Jamestown. So you imagine, close to 2 years you haven't heard anything. You know, they probably thought they probably thought the worst. I'll never forget the sound of my dad's voice when I phoned him, Lawrence said. Lawrence laid his head against the back of his chair and gripped the armrest with his right hand. Tears squeezed through his tight shut eyes, and then, only for a moment, he sobbed out loud. I said, "This is your son, Lawrence, Dad." Oh, that's a great ending. Editor's note, the incredible quality of this man was made known to me not only through his willingness to share his personal story, but by the courageous and heartwarming manner in which he did so. I'm deeply grateful for having had the opportunity to meet and listen to a man of his caliber. So I also tried to find this Angela Shank, but I wasn't able to. You know, if I could get in contact with her, that would be. But who knows if I don't know if she is even still alive. But yeah, that I'm glad my grandmother shared that with me. And I want to share that with you on this Memorial Day 2025. So many of these stories, World War II, Vietnam, we all know that these stories are, you know, few and far between. They're getting lost. Many men don't share them. And as they pass, their stories, if they're not shared or kept, are, you know, kind of pass into the memories of history as well. And so I wanted to share this. As I stated, it's a great honor and privilege knowing this about my great grandpa, even though, as I said, my memories are vague of him. But it truly is an honor and a great memory. And again, from my family to yours, if you have loved ones, if you're struggling this Memorial Day with the loss of a loved one who has served, I thank you deeply and am truly grateful. And I give you a salute to you, your family, and to my great grandpa. Thank you, and God bless you.